Like, I feel like middle school is that point in time where you're just trying to do new things, but you're not afraid to be a dick. Because everyone's an
You don't
asshole.
have that filter yet, yeah. And you're just really sensitive to everything that everyone says.
Mm-hmm.
All those hormones raging. You
Yep.
don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't teach a middle school class. That would be...
Takes a lot of patience,
Yeah.
which I got a lot of. So.
Yeah. So you're from Cleveland?
Correct.
Then? How did you end up in Toledo?
I have family up here. My whole mom's side actually is from the Toledo area.
Okay, so you're familiar with it.
Yeah, they're from Perrysburg. Went to St. Ursula and St. John's right by campus. And when I came for college visiting time, it was the first college I came to. Just because we were going to Cedar Point, so my dad made me go to a college visit first. And I fell in love with the campus, loved it. I really liked the Victorian structure of it. And then also Toledo being very affordable with scholarships and not being crazy expensive like other state schools. It made it a pretty easy decision to come here, which I feel like a lot of people think, because Toledo is not a bad school, but I think they see the cost and they're like, oh, that's not a good school. But it's a very good bang for your buck college.
Definitely.
For certain.
So you did your co-op, you didn't like it. Was it just automatically you knew what you wanted to do, like after the co-op didn't go well, where you're like, all right, I want to teach math, or was there anything else?
I checked physical therapy out for like a hot sec, and then I forgot that I hated blood and anything to do with inside fluids and body stuff. So like, oh yeah, not that for sure. And I would have had to restart college, and the idea of going to school for another 7 years after going for 2 years sounded like I should just go into med school. But yeah,
I don't know how the hell my credits transferred over for me to graduate basically at the same time, because you have engineering and media communication, like
Same thing.
practically
enough of those general stuff. They were able to stretch.
What it was, I took a lot of higher ranks classes, and so that kind of put me. That kind of.
Oh, you got like your 4,000 level.
Yeah.
Requirements.
It was like I had a few 3,000 classes, then that kind of covered a lot, and then all the intro classes, I took all that.
How long were you in engineering, Daniel?
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah, but it's not what I wanted to do, but I still gained a lot of stuff through it.
You just hear that so much with people in engineering, like they figure out that's not what they want to do. It's like, what is like the person that wants to do engineering then?
The person that like grew up working in their garage building cars, they usually tend to stick with it.
I also think you have to be very dedicated to the career field, such that the position I was in was a project management on a construction site. Construction, sometimes there's 2-hour days because it's raining. Other days you might be there for 18, 20 hours. So it's a very like non-consistent life, which isn't what I imagined, because I love construction. I think construction would be so much fun. It was just the idea of being on a site for 20 hours a day, possibly, and then like I personally really want to have a family and be like a really good dad, and I know there's no way to do that while you're working those kinds of hours. Definitely. I didn't think the reward of the money was worth what it required.
Was your co-op like that, really inconsistent on hours?
No, I mean, as a co-op,
but you could see it.
They give you 8 to 4, but sometimes my boss would have to be at a meeting at 6 a.m. and he'd be in the office till like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And he had two kids at home. Yeah, and I could just see him stressed. And I was just like, I can see myself in 25 years, and I do not like what I see.
I think a big one for me was the work I did, I realized that even if I did move up and got better paying jobs and got better and everything, I wasn't advancing something I wanted to advance in. And I feel like that was a big portion of it for me.
Was it also a money thing for you? Like when you saw like the dollar amounts kind of like...
It was, yeah. So when I first got into engineering, I was like, okay, money. And it pushes me and I like to get pushed. And I was good at...
But it shoves back.
That shoved back. But I was good at physics and math and all that. So I liked that. I liked the concepts of physics and math. I just didn't like how we applied it in engineering. Because for me, for example, I did a lot of AutoCAD, where I just kind of actually didn't really apply it all that much. But
I think one thing for me is I didn't know engineering was so much the management or design side of stuff. My draw to construction is I thought it'd be really cool to like be on site and like actually doing things.
Mm-hmm.
But then I quickly found out that's a laborer's position or a carpenter's.
So you wanted to be
position.
more like actually in the building.
I'm a hands-on kind of person, not I'm going to sit in this back room in a trailer on the corner of the site and just make sure it's going okay.
Yeah.
So once I realized that like I didn't want to be that, I'd rather be the guy with the helmet on out there swinging a hammer, even though they don't necessarily like their lives either.
Yeah.
But if I was going to be on a construction site, that's what I would want to do.
Mm-hmm. One of my friends he went to UT and dropped out because...
Go ahead and name him.
Yeah. Well, no, he dropped out because he was in business. He didn't really like it. Mm-hmm. He wasn't doing the best, and he just was kind of there just to be there. And he found out that you can go for like an electrician position where you do more of the hands-on stuff, and the company will not only allow you to like take all the classes you need to take, but they'll pay for it, and on top of that you get paid to work there while you're learning as an apprentice. And he started getting like $13 an hour, and it goes $2 every year he's with the group, and like that's for like not needing any degree and just kind of getting classes through them, and
they pay for the school.
They pay for the classes.
I say one of my big pieces of advice I think people need to remember is that like college isn't meant to be for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's to get a expertise in a specific career field. Like not everyone has to go, because there are really good jobs like electricians, plumbers, carpenters, and all that, where it's a very, very good skill and you can be compensated a lot for it. It's just today's society doesn't tell you to go into the trades necessarily. They say, oh, you need a degree, where some people are just not meant to go to college. Like some people you see walk across campus, you hear their GPAs and you hear what they do with their lives, and you're just like, you are really not meant to be here.
Yep, you're just wasting money and time.
Yeah.
Trash men in New York make over $100,000 a year.
Oh my gosh!
Which obviously it's New York, so the cost of living is going to be higher, but it's you have to be put on a waiting list to like even get considered for that job, because it's in such high demand, because it's such a high... Well, any like trash...
Have you been to New York and seen their trash?
Yeah, no.
I don't care, I'll do it.
It's disgusting.
I worked maintenance.
Yeah, that is true.
I worked maintenance at a venture park that was in the middle of a pretty suburban area. So I've smelled some smells. But, yeah.
I mean, even with some of our friends, I feel like I saw that a lot.
And... so college has really changed over the years. Back in the days, rumor has it, college was actually made to be a place where it wasn't necessarily career focused. It was focused more towards just building you as a human being and kind of improving your overall skills. And it's evolved to this thing where, okay, college, you need to go there to get a degree so you can get a job. And you're paying that much, you're putting that investment in, and that investment's really increasing. Like over the past 20 years, it's I think doubled, and college hasn't gotten 2 times better. It's just people getting greedy. Well, not even getting greedy. They're creating like all these positions you don't really need to create. Like that's just I'm really bad at explaining.
Supply and demand's high, so the price.
Keep going and higher. So you have these degrees where it's still kind of when college first started, where it's not going to get you a job, but it's just good to take those like classes for skills and everything. But you're paying the amount that you would need to pay if you wanted to do some really high-end job, but you just end up not getting that high-end job, which is not good, and that's why people go into debt. And
now you're seeing, because all these people are going to college, these trade schools, like you were talking about, demand is really low, but, so they're upping the pay for them. Right. And that's the thing is, like, I feel like a big portion of it is people like to go to college just for the experience. It's a really good social experience. It really helps you with soft skills. And so you don't really get the experience really anywhere else except for college that I'm aware of. And because of that, people are willing to pay the price to go to college. And I feel like at least for me, that really was a big portion. Not like a huge portion of it, but that was a pretty big chunk when deciding if I wanted to go to college or not. And
I don't know. I feel like if there's some sort of other thing that brought people together, then people wouldn't maybe want to go to college as much. Because you have a lot of those people where they go to college the first year or so, and then they just drop out just because they don't really want to do the school part, which is kind of the main part of it. But
you haven't heard about like all those crazy electrician parties at the trade schools where it gets really wild?
Oh, for sure. But like, kind of, I think we talked about this.
Know how to party.
Yeah,
they do though.
It's
but like, that's another thing with community colleges where I don't know what it is, but even I think it's the fact that you're commuting with community college, I guess, but you don't have as much of that social experience that community colleges either.
It's just high school with harder classes.
Yeah.
And you're in such like varying degrees of ages and backgrounds at a community college, whereas when you put yourself on a campus, you're around people that are essentially doing the same thing as you, same goals.
Right. So I think the solution is we need to segregate people
Oh boy.
into what they like, and they have to stay in that neighborhood.
Yeah. We'll cut that out.
Are you saying cut that part out?
Yes.
Oh boy, he's about to go off on another rant. This will be like a bonus feature.
Yeah.
When this comes out on DVD.
Right. For everyone that pays $10 a month, they'll get that feature.
I just got an idea.
Yeah.
We should put this out on DVD where it's just a blank screen and you hear us talking, and then we do commentary over it, like how like they do like the behind the scenes commentary. I think that'd be good. Bring all your guests back for every episode and we just talk over them talking about like what was going on in the episode.
We can kind of take note of what was said.
Yeah.
I like it.
And then this is like when Joe was signaling, like, cut it out. Like, yeah, like give him like that behind the scenes.
It's like talkingception.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, Joe.
What does StrideLine Socks mean to you?
An annoying ad I see on Facebook.
Oh.
Man.
Offer code MTD.
Well, luckily, it's just an annoying ad you see on YouTube, so.
Have you thought about buying ad space on YouTube for this?
I have now.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
This is funny. I recently just reached out to StrideLine Socks over Instagram and informed them. I DM'd them. So
Can Socks like respond back?
no. So I DM'd StrideLine Socks and asked them if they can get into touch with Andrew Yang and see if he can get in on the gig. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. Yeah. I did just message them about an hour ago, so I'll give them time, but we'll see.
Did they read it?
I'll check later.
We're live right now.
We are live. I'll get back to you. So, Joe, what are some past challenges you faced other than switching majors, and how did you overcome it? Like, what's like a big challenge? Or maybe if you want to talk more about switching majors, what was like a really big...
At the collegiate level?
Yeah, just something you overcame to get to where you are now, like maybe getting your bachelor's degree. What was that?
I guess my challenges, other than switching my major, college itself never really provided too many like challenges for me. I'm blessed to be, I guess, academically gifted. I don't know, like school comes easy for me, so I never really had to stress myself out based on classes, if that makes sense. And I'm very blessed and thankful for that, because I know there's a bunch of people on campuses across the country that stress themselves out to get the grades that they don't necessarily even want. So a lot of my struggles came in like student organizations and trying to get people to work together, work towards those common goals, things like that. I guess one of them would be when I was with the Catholic Student Association. I was the vice president for a year with my president, Maureen Hickey, #alwaysmypresident. And we just had struggles with changing the culture of the organization from a culture that we didn't necessarily like to a new culture that we thought would benefit the organization and the people in it and future generations. But it's really hard when you're juniors and there's seniors who don't want it to change, but then there's underclassmen that want it to change, and you have to figure out that balance, because I had friends on both sides of the line and they didn't necessarily like me for changing it either way. So that was really tough. It was a low place. Had to talk to a lot of friends, try to get through that. And then even with Daniel, the organization we were a part of with Blue Crew, pretty easy thing to just go to games and show up and have a blast, but there was always hiccups along the way that made you just question what you were doing, and you always had to go to your mentors. That's always my big piece of advice, is have people that you can actually go to and ask advice, because you're never going to be able to figure out everything by yourselves. And odds are someone else has went through the same exact thing as you. So like just hearing their side of it, not necessarily you don't want to be told what to do, but you want to be given information about what your options are.
Yeah.
So those were my biggest struggles, I would say.
That's kind of one thing, going off of the mentorship, that's one thing I kind of put 2 and 2 together recently, is having a good mentor it can be really important to just how you do. If you need a mentor to be better emotionally or successfully, and just kind of like being able to choose that mentor as well. Like, that mentor is going to be someone that you look up to, someone that you want to eventually become. So if it's someone that's able to really, that's in a happy place and they can kind of help you be in a happy place, then if you can find the right person for that, that'd be really good. But also, this is kind of going off, not necessarily what you were saying, but just mentorship in general. I was actually, I think Alec might have brought it up in the first interview, where he kind of looks at people in really successful like industries and just how like they're really successful. And he was basically saying how sorry, I can't do words right now. But he was basically saying how he's got mentors that are like super successful people, and how basically if he wants to get really successful, then he just sees what they do and he gets advice from them, and that's how he gets to that position, and it's working out for him. So
yeah, I also think it's really important to have a good support group, or you don't need to have a huge group of friends, but having like a good 1 or 2 friends that don't tell you what you want to hear, but tell you the hard things that you need to hear, because if they're your friends, they should be able to tell you if you're wrong and if you're doing the bad thing. So like that's always helpful too.
Mental health is important, and if you like focus strictly on just being successful, you'll eventually short circuit and get crazy. So it's important to be able to have people that can kind of stabilize your mental health when you get into those scenarios.
Yep. Something though that I've read a lot of people that are successful and have like confidence is the truth of fake it till you make it, and just kind of put yourself out there and put yourself in uncomfortable situations, and that's how you're going to grow as a person and gain that confidence.
Yeah. And even when those scenarios don't work out, when you do fake it and you don't make it, and the cliche is that instead of it being a failure, it's a learning experience. But even if it's like the worst of worst things happen, and just you're at your lowest point, sometimes being at that lowest point can serve as like a really big push to make you do the exact opposite of whatever it is you're doing. So for me, for example, when I was doing my co-op for mechanical engineering, I was at a really low point, and I realized like, hey, everything I do in my free time is media communication. So like it's a risk because I'm switching majors 2.5 years in, but it's a starting point towards something that I really like, and I'm doing better. I'm getting there. I'm on the road to success, hopefully. But sometimes you gotta reach that low point to get to that high point.
Daniel, if you're not designing Toy Story 10,
yeah,
I'm disappointed.
I don't think I'm.
I don't know how they could pull off a Toy Story 10, but they will.
To tell you where I'm at right now, so CGI, I have a decent amount of skills, but you need to be top shit.
What's like how much money do you have to put into that?
Well, technically not a whole lot, because there's so many online sources, and that's the route I'm taking. The downside to that,
like the programs and all of that,
it's amazing how much stuff you can get for free, legally too, not even illegally. So the industry use software is Autodesk Maya, And as long as you go to the school, which I currently go to, you can use their program for educational purposes as long as you're not making money off of it. So because I'm still technically going to UT, I get the software for 3 years. And, I might just go to some online school 3 years from now to take a single year class so I can renew that. Or I could just say I'm still going to UT. But
hey, who cares about the yellow tape?
Right, but so that's free. Also, there's a software called Blender, which is free, and that you can use commercially for free. You don't need any permission from anything. You just use it. So that's all free. And then there's plenty of YouTube things you can get for free. I'm actually using lynda.com now, which I'm getting through the library for free, and I'm currently learning Blender through that. I'm not paying anything for that. So you could basically go to school for CGI completely free of charge. If you want to pay more money, if you want to take more in-depth classes, maybe you want to get assistance from an actual professional in the industry, which is always a really good idea because you learn what they know and you also build that connection with them. That is a good idea and a good investment, but you could honestly do it for free. The biggest thing is with the CGI industry is not only do you need to be really stupid good at what you're doing, you also need to know people. It's like a little mix of both. So you could be, as long as you have a little bit of both, you can eventually kind of straggle your way in. But the thing with that, if you take the route I'm taking, is it's really hard to find people in your industry unless you live in LA or some really big city where the industry is really popular in. So that's one thing I've been kind of working on, is reaching out to people and trying to make friends in the industry, but it's kind of hard to do in Ohio. So a few years from now, maybe I'll move somewhere or something. Still figuring that part out. But yeah, so that's the crazy part, is a lot of people go to college for CGI and they spend a crap ton of money, but you don't necessarily have to do that. But if you do, you get that networking portion out of it. But that's my self-biography, so my novel about myself. I'm going to drink this drink now.
So back to you. With going into teaching, because I'm in supply chain, so the business part of it, and networking is huge. How is that in your profession with networking with other students, or is it a thing?
I have no idea because I'm not there yet, and I haven't done any student teaching yet. So I don't really know a whole lot of people just besides the people back in my high school. So I'm assuming it's a lot of things because for any job, having somebody get your name in the door is always a huge thing. So I'm sure once I do my student teaching, I'll be able to get some contacts and everybody will be like, oh, I know that guy at this high school. You should apply here. So I'm assuming yes, but I don't know for sure.
How much more schooling do you have left?
Just one more year.
One more year.
Yes.
Cool.
Daniel's not looking at a sheet of paper right now.
No.
For the next question. He's going to say this very naturally, and here it goes. Off the top of his head, Daniel, what would you like to ask him?
Something you regret from college? Anything you wish you could have known earlier, or anything should have taken advantage of? Question mark.
Anything I regret? I mean, I honestly don't think I regret anything from college. I like to think I'm a very confident person, and I usually think pretty hard about the decisions I make, and I think all the decisions I made were for the best, and everything is pretty good in life right now. No major complaints, so I think I don't really regret anything because the things that happened and the decisions I made me who I am. So that's the way I like to look at it. What was the second part of that question? I'm sorry.
Anything you wish you would have, if you would have known earlier, if you would have taken advantage of or done something differently.
I guess if I would have known that I would have hated my co-op, that would have been cool to start an education as a freshman. Because I actually really want to be a history high school teacher. That would be in an ideal world, but like I said, I didn't want to restart college, so that's kind of why I went into mathematics side of it. And then also, probably just, I knew being involved in college is a really important thing, and I did get really involved, but like you just don't know like the magnitude of it until you walk onto a college campus, especially at Toledo. And like I was fortunate to find CSA, have Blue Crew find me, and some other things, because I don't know how college would have been if I didn't have those two things in my life. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be sitting here today if I didn't have that in my life. So it's just really cool.
What's something that you're glad you did in college?
Something I'm glad I did.
That you haven't talked about yet.
I would say joining things for the correct reasons. A lot of people chase the titles and they don't necessarily want the work that comes with it. And then you join that organization with said people, and then they look at you and they're like, we don't know what we're actually doing. Mm-hmm. And they're actually like the president or the VP, and you're like, what do you mean you don't know what you're supposed to do? Like, that was your job to tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. So like, I joined the right things for the right reasons, and then I stayed true to myself, I would say. Just like, I mean, not to get super religious or anything, but being a Catholic, like sometimes it's hard and it's easy to fall off in college, but I would like to think I stayed pretty good in that, and then applying that way of life to the other organizations I'm in, and not being super condemning, but being very welcoming.
That's one thing I kind of hated. I did it all the time in high school, was joining organizations for the status of like what I was, or just because it was a good resume builder, because everyone told me, oh, it's all about building a resume and then you'll get into the highest college, and that's definitely not it. Like, if you're not in a group because you love it, then you shouldn't be in that group. And so I literally had like, I think 9 organizations I was a part of in high school.
Yeah, so in my high school, all we had was athletics.
Yeah.
The only organization we had was Pro-Life Club, and I went to a Catholic high school. Okay. So like, it didn't even count, because basically, theoretically, the whole high school should be. So like, there was literally no organization. So when I showed up to the org fair, I was like, what the heck is a student organization? I had no idea.
I was in everything. I was in German club, Spanish club, French club, that academic club where you do debates and stuff. I forgot what it's called.
Academic Challenge?
Academic Challenge. It was fun. I did it for like a...
You can get on TV for that in Cleveland area, right?
I couldn't. I was not smart. Okay. I did tennis, cross country for a little bit, marching band, Leo Club, well known as Leo's Club. I did everything, but I didn't do everything at all. So that, I think that's one tip of advice I give, is don't do organizations just because it's resume builder, because that's a waste of time.
So you're saying that when I was in high school and I was the treasurer of the FFA, the Future Farmers of America, you think I was doing that for the right reasons?
Well, did you actually want to be a part of it, or were you just doing it to build the resume?
No. It wasn't to build a resume. It was so I could get out of class early. Because I mean,
that's fair.
Because the resume is important, just for point of clarification.
Yeah.
For the listeners out there. But you also want to be able to like talk about and be passionate about what's on your resume, so that way you don't show up to the interview and they ask you about it, and then you're just like, Because
that's not going to be a good sign. Like, you'll make it to the interview, but you won't make it to the job, unless you're a good BSer, which we'll get to that later. You were a tour guide too.
Yes, I was.
How was that?
It was a blast. I did it for the past 4 years at Toledo, and it's easy to talk about something that you love and get paid for it. So
it's true.
Talk about an ideal job.
And luckily, I think they're still paying. Are they still paying tour guides?
They are still paying tour guides.
That's good. Man, that's
something they were talking about not doing anymore.
Yeah, they thought that getting volunteer tour guides was a good idea, just because it would save a lot of money. But I also think it's not a good idea to have volunteer tour guides, because college and deciding where you go is such an important decision.
It's an investment on their end.
Correct. Yeah. So like, paying people thereby gives you requirements for said tour guides to fill, and it will make them work a little bit harder because they know they're getting paid. If it's a volunteer position,
quality of work's gonna be higher.
Quality of work would go down, quality of a tour guide would go down, and they would feel more open to say whatever they wanted and not necessarily reflect the institution. So I think that was very important.
So did they get volunteer tour guides? No, that was just an idea they threw around.
Yeah.
And all of us elder tour guides were like, that is
No.
not a good idea.
No, because like most of us would have left.